So Google Apps, you have Google Drive, and that's where you store things. That's where you store all your documents and files and videos and anything else at. You also have Google Docs, which is the equivalent of Microsoft Word. You have Sheets, which is the equivalent of Excel. Presentations, which is just a presentation application there that's kind of like PowerPoint. You have Google Forms, which is an awesome add-on. You have drawings, and then of course you have the apps and extensions that we will look at briefly today. So a couple of things before we really get started that you probably need to know about Google Drive. I'm going with the assumption for this webinar anyway is that most people are using the new Google Drive. If I click on this little settings icon over on the far right, you'll see that I can leave the new drive and go back to the old drive, but currently I'm using the new drive. And, depending on your definition of new, I've had it for a few months, and there's been many people that's had it for months longer than I have. So I think the new drive is probably the most popular. So if you have the settings icon, you can probably check, and if it says leave the new drive, then you are you're currently using the new drive. Now, the next thing to take a look at is the layout. If you've just switched over to the new drive or you're in Drive right now, your listing may look a little different than mine. Mine is sorted by name, and it's a list view and all that sort of stuff, and the folders are going to be at the top. But you can change everything in Drive. You can change the way things look. Actually, the first time, when I first switched over to the new Drive, it looked completely different. If you see up here on the bar that I'm on, it says Grid View. And Grid View is going to list your folder at the top, and then any documents underneath that, kind of in in just a square screenshot there. If I wanted to go to my drive, it looks even better because you'll see all of the folders that I have at the top and so on. And then there's also this little View Details button. And so when you first go into the new drive, this is probably going to be what you see. You've got this detail screen that tells you about anything that you click on, and then you've got all your folders and your documents underneath that. So you can see all I've done to switch the look around is I've turned off the details, and then I've switched over to list view, and that gives me a view that is kind of it's similar to what the older drive was like, and I was comfortable with that. So I kept it that way. Right. And somebody asked the question. I did see the question pop up on how do you select multiple items. So you would do that by you can click on one and then hold down the shift key and click on others, and you can select multiple items that way. Now, once you get into Drive, the best way to think about Drive is just like My Documents or something like that. If you've had a PC in the past, a Windows machine, you're probably familiar with My Documents. And the idea with My Documents is that you can drop all your files in there and make folders and all that. So this is the same way. This works the same way. What's important to understand too is that I can go over here to the left column of my drive, and I can click New, and I can make new. Sorry, I'm having speech problems here. I can make new Google Docs and new sheets and slides, and there's more stuff that I can create, such as forms and so on. But you can also upload files. So just because you're using Google Drive doesn't mean you can't store Word documents and PowerPoint files and videos and PDF files and all those sort of things. You can store anything in any digital file, I should say, in your drive. So if you're in education, if you have Google Apps for Education and it's just been switched over to where you have unlimited storage, I definitely recommend you start storing all of your stuff in Drive, just because that's going to give you a safe backup mechanism in case something were to happen to your computer. Now, we'll just take a look here. I'm going to click New, and I'm going to click Folder. So I'm going to create a new folder, and it says, what do you want to name it? And we'll just be really clever and call it New Folder, and I'll hit Create. And so here now I have a new folder in the folder that I was in to start with. So you can create folders, you can create subfolders, you can create subfolders, subfolders, and so on. So you can organize this as deep as you want to. And then so if I wanted to go in and here's something called Untitled Document, if I wanted to go and click on it and drag it up to New Folder, I could do that, and it says my untitled document has been moved to new folder. So it's real easy to create folders and then move things around and all that sorts of stuff. Now, I should also say, you guys did see here, hopefully, I can create a new folder, I can create a new doc and sheet, but here, if I want to upload a file, so if I have a PDF file or a video file or something like that, I can click File Upload, and that will upload that file right into the directory that I'm at. I can also upload a whole folder. If there's just a folder that I already have on my computer, if I have one classroom documents or something like that, I can just upload the whole folder and it would put it in this directory as well. So that's kind of how you can store files in Google Drive. Now, an important thing that you can do here that I've chosen to do, this is up to you guys if you want to do this or not, but there is a settings icon that we clicked on earlier to see if you're on the new drive or not. And when you click on the settings icon, then you can click on settings again, and there are some important settings in there that you may want to choose. The first one I have, because, well, first of all, if you're using a Chromebook, you don't really have the option of using Microsoft Word and those sort of things, right? You can't install software like we're used to on Windows machines and Mac machines. You can't really install that stuff on Chromebooks. So I have it set to convert uploads. So I want to convert my uploaded files to Google Docs editor format. What that means is if I upload a PowerPoint, it's going to convert it to a Google presentation. If I upload a Word doc, it's going to convert it to a Google Doc. And this does a really good job. The only time you may see some issues there, or at least the only time I see issues, is if I have like a Word document where I really did some heavy formatting with tables and images and things like that. Sometimes when it converts over to Google Docs format, it may look funny, but all the information will be there. It may just not look right. But generally speaking, anytime I upload any documents, any stories that have been written or anything like that, you upload it and it will convert it just fine. So that's the first thing you'll probably want to consider doing is convert uploads. Again, it's optional if you're just wanting to use it as a storage place, that's fine, but you convert those, it'll convert them over. And the other, it's much easier to do in the new drive, is offline. One concern that people have about Google, Google Docs or just the Google Apps for Education in general is that you always need to be online to do things. So that's not entirely true. You can turn on offline access, and this will only work in the Chrome web browser, but if you turn on offline access, that's going to kind of keep your work synced up locally. So if you do lose internet connection or you're on a plane or something like that, you can still open up your files and edit them. And then whenever you get internet access again, it will just sync those files back up for you. So that's a useful thing to know about Google Drive as well. You don't always have to be online to access it if you have this checked. Right. The only other thing it's going to kind of go right into, I'm going to open up a Google Doc and show a few things about Google Doc, but it's the whole idea of sharing files and folders and things like that. You can share files with anyone with a Google account. You can also share folders. So if you have a folder that has 30 different files in it, you can just share that folder with someone else. And it's not the same as emailing them a copy of a document like it is with Microsoft Word. So I'll show you kind of an example of some of the things you can do here. Here is a document I have titled Earth. Now I can go into the document and share it, or I can just share it here in Drive if I have no need to go into it. So if you look up at the toolbar here, there are a couple options. I could get a link to where people could just access this. Here is Share Earth, and that's what I want to do. So if I click Share Earth, now if you have Google Apps for Education, that means you have Google Apps for your domain. So you may be using Gmail, but somebody is going to email you at your name at yourschool.com, right? Not at gmail.com. We have Google Apps as well here at TextHelp. So if you email me, at texthelp.com, I'm going to get that in Gmail. And that's important because if I hit the share button here, it says enter names or email addresses. So what I could do is I could enter the name of anyone that I want to share this file with. I could enter their name or their email, and here's Martin. I could share it with him, and then he would get access to it. And currently he could edit it. So that means he could pop right into the document and start editing it. Now I'm not going to do this because every time I share something with Martin, he starts messing with it about the time I'm doing a presentation. And it's just a weird thing. So I'm going to, I'll move that out of the way, but you can see you can share and let people edit. Or if you want to, you could only let them comment, meaning they can't change anything, but they can make comments on it, which is real handy in a classroom setting sometimes. Or you can just set it to view. Can't make any changes. All you can do is view it. Now, rather than sharing with individual people, say I wanted to share with with all the people that are on this webinar, it's going to be difficult for me to type in everyone's name or email to share with them. So instead, you could go and click Get Shareable Link. Now, if I get Shareable Link, what I can do is currently it says people at TextHelp with the link can view. So what that means is if you're using Google Apps for Education, and let's say your district is called Fayette County Schools. Well, it may say people at Fayette County Schools with the link can view. That means anyone in your domain that ends in FayetteCountySchools.com or whatever it may be would be able to view. Now, you could change that and say anyone can edit, or anyone can comment. You can do whatever you like with that. There are also some other options. If I go to more, which is what I would do in the case of this webinar if I wanted everyone to have it, I would actually, instead of just people at TextHelp with the link, I would say anyone with the link. So if you choose this, you can share it with anyone. It doesn't matter if they're in your domain or not, and they would be able to go in and view or comment or edit or whatever you decided to make the privileges there on that document. So that's some basics on sharing, and that's one of the most powerful things, in my opinion, about Google Drive and the whole Google Apps for Education, is being able to share these documents and comment on them and see changes in real time and all that. I'm just going to hit cancel here. I'll show you an example. The only kind of folder we haven't talked about, when you go to your drive, you have your main My Drive folder where you can put things. You have a recent folder that shows recent things you've done. You've got your trash can for things you've got rid of. And if you want to start anything, important documents, you can do that and find them there. But there's also an incoming folder. So anytime I share a document with somebody, it's going to show up in my incoming, or it's going to show up in their incoming folder. And so an example of this is Jackie. Jackie has shared something with me earlier called Ancient Rome. Now, if I were to go and open this document, now you see I'm going to be in a Google document. And I can actually go in and start making changes and all that. Now, what's cool about this is that I'm in this document right now, but you see the pink here? That's Jackie. If I highlight over it, I even saw her name popped up. And so Jackie is in the webinar right now, and she's also in this document because I can see up here at the top, there's her picture, there's her Google ID and all that stuff. So I'm in here and I'm editing, but now if Jackie wanted to make a change, and Jackie, I don't know if you can hear me or not, but if you could just delete a word or make a change or something like that if you're on there so people can see. So talk about real-time access. She just added the word "the" in front of gladiators, and I saw that happen in real time. The problem with Microsoft Word documents or any normal type files that we deal with is if I were to make that change and wanted Jackie's approval, then I would need to actually type it in Word, save it, email it, and it could have track changes turned on or something like that. And then Jackie would have to approve it or make any other changes and put version 2, and before you know it, we've got 12 different versions of this document, to where here we're all using the same version of the document, which I think is a powerful thing. Now, what if you don't want that to happen? What if I shared it with people and they can make edits if they want, but I want my own version that no one messes with? Well, you can do that too. You could either set it to view only when you send it to them, or you could just go File once you're in a Google Doc, and you could say Make a Copy, and you could just make a copy of the doc and call it, your version or whatever you wanted. That copy wouldn't be shared with anyone unless you decided to do so. Now, another thing that's good about Google Docs or Sheets or presentations or anything is you don't have to save. As soon as you make a change, it's automatically saved. This has actually messed me up quite a bit because I'm so used to that occurring now, I forget to hit save on other programs that require it. But if you go in and make changes, it's always up, pretty much to the second. I could go and make a change, and my computer can blow up, and go open a new computer and sign into Google, and there would be my document with all my changes, just the way I left it. So that's, I think, a really important thing with Google Docs. Another thing that you can do, if you do have a Google Doc and you want to send something to someone that's not using Google, or that doesn't have a Gmail account or anything like that, you can always change the format. And to do that, again, you would just go under the file, and we just saw that you can make a copy and you can move it to different folders, all those sort of things. But I could also choose to download as, and I could download it as a Word document or a PDF file or an HTML file or any of those sort of things. So even though you're in a Google Doc, if you need to create a Word doc from that, it's very easy to do. You can save it as a Word doc, download it, send it in an email, and so on. So pretty straightforward stuff there. Okay, so we've made a transition here. We've moved from Google Drive into Google Docs. And when you're in Google Docs, if you're just now making this change and you're used to using Microsoft or something similar, you're not going to see a lot of changes. Now, Google Docs, it won't do as much as Microsoft Word will. That's saying if you're like a really advanced Microsoft Word user. If you're just using this as a word processing application, it's going to do everything you need, plus have those additional collaboration features. So, you've got your zoom in, you can change your headings and things like that if you're making lists. You've got all the different fonts that you can choose from, your font size, bold, italic, all that. You can center things. You can do your line spacing, bullets, indents, all that kind of stuff you can do just like you were in Microsoft Word. It's got word count. You can put in tables. You can add images. So again, I think for the most part, you're going to be pretty happy with the Google document, especially when it comes to those added collaboration features. Now, there are a few other things in here that I find useful. So let's say Jackie has shared this file with me. Now, I want to go in and make some changes, but Jackie could always go in and go to File and see Revision History to see a column of the different changes that have been made, and she could see what those changes are. And this would give her an easy way to tell if I've been messing with it or not, right? So that's one way of doing things. But another option that you can do is up here at the top right where it says editing. This is probably one of my favorite features of Google Docs is you can change editing to suggesting. So now if I go through and change anything, and say I wanted to change BC to AD, and so I highlighted over that, and I want to type AD. Well, instead of that deleting out the BC, it suggested it, right? It showed what I want to do. It shows I want to replace BC with AD. And when Jackie goes in, if she wants to accept this, she can hit the check mark, or if she doesn't, she can just hit the X, and it will go away. So that suggested edits, I think, is a pretty powerful tool that you can use. We use that a lot whenever we're going back and forth on documents, making suggestions and so forth. You could also go down to viewing, and if you change to the view mode, now you see I can't do anything. I'm hitting the delete key right now, but nothing's happening. So that's what happens when you share with someone, and if you choose view only, this is what they get. If you choose comments, this is what they get. Or if you choose allow to edit, then they can go in and make any change that they want to, and you can always view that on the revision history if you would like. So pretty good stuff there that you can do through Google Docs. Another thing I really like is some of the research features. I'm going to get rid of my silly suggestion there. And in addition to suggestions, you can also do comments. So a suggestion would be if I want to replace one word with another. A comment would be just a general overall comment about the writing. So if you're an educator and you're working with a student and they submit something to you, you may suggest things like commas or different words or something like that. But if you just want to put an overall comment that says great job or make suggestions, you just click where you would want to put that comment at, click the comment button, and start typing your comment. And others that are on the document can hop in and make replies and all that sort of stuff. So comments are great as well. Now, in addition, there's some cool research things. And again, this is just because it's Google, and Google they're like the big search engine, so they can find everything. They're pretty good at the whole research side of things. So if I wanted to go into let me just find I'll just choose Gladiator. And under tools, lots of things under tools, if you need to get a word count and all that. But you see there's research. So if I were to click on research, if you guys can see, now if your go-to webinar panel may be in the way, you can always minimize that or move it over to the other side of your screen. But if I do a research, it basically does a Google search for me right in the doc. And I can go down and you see the first thing it pulls up is a movie. It was a fine movie and all, but that's not really what we're looking for here. But now, but here's Wikipedia, for example. And so aside from whether or not you think Wikipedia is a reliable source, it's going to make for a good example. So I could hover over this and I could click preview and it could show me, you know, what that page looks like. And if I wanted to, I'll just close the preview out. I could click on the link and it would open that up in a new tab so I could have a look at it. If I wanted to link Gladiator to this page, I would just insert link, and now that Gladiator is a hyperlink that would take me to the page. And possibly the coolest thing is if you got some of the information from this page, you could choose Cite. And if I do that, I hit Cite, and you see it put the little 1 up there next to Gladiator. And if I scroll down to the bottom of this page, you see there's my note of where they came from. So I don't know, from a research perspective, I think that's pretty cool stuff. So that's just some of the research features that are on there. Now there are other things you can do. There are special add-ins that you can choose that let you do all kinds of crazy things with Google Docs. You know, this is just a basic overview. So hopefully you understand it's not that much different from Word, other than all the collaboration features and the suggested edits and all those sort of things. And the research features are pretty cool there as well. Again, you can also make a copy of it if you don't want to share it with someone any longer. You know, you can download it in these different formats if you would like to do that. And then if this is in my drive right now and I want to move it to another folder, I can also just click the little folder icon here and it will bring up a list of my folders, and I can choose where I would like to save, what folder or directory would I like to save this document in. So it's good where it is. I'm just going to close that out and close this little window out as well. Okay, so that's Docs. Now, the presentations we're going to go through really quick here. I'm just going to close out this Ancient Rome doc, and I'm going to go into the presentation that we were looking at earlier. Now, here, we were looking at Drive and Docs, and the next screen I had is on presentations. I've got notes down there from something else. So you'll see that presentations look really similar to PowerPoint. And again, just looking at it, if I want to insert a new slide, I can just, you know, choose the format of the slide that I want to do. Now I'm just using a basic blank template here, and I added some color in a couple of different places. But in addition, you can see that, you know, you got undo or redo it if you didn't mean to delete something. You can add in text boxes, you can add in images, and when you add in images, you can upload your own images, or you can do a search on the web. I'll just hit search to see all the different ways you can drop images in. You can upload your own. You can take a snapshot if you want to use a webcam. If you know the URL of an image, you can do that. If you already have some in your Google Drive or your albums, your Google Plus albums, you can use it, or you can search. And if you search, you'll see it's going to find like Creative Commons type images that you can use, and it's going to look in Google and Life and some stock images that you can search from and insert those into your presentation. So pretty good stuff there with the images. You can add in shapes and lines. You can change your layout. Sorry, your theme, I should say. So they call it a template in PowerPoint. Here they'll call it a theme. Here are the themes that come with it. You can always go in and create your own themes or import themes and all that fun stuff as well. So very similar to PowerPoint. What I like about Google Presentations, again, it's the collaboration piece. I co-present with people all the time. And what happens is we have a PowerPoint and I'll start it and then I send it to that person and they send it back as version 2. I'll add a few more slides. And then if we use something like Dropbox, sure enough, somehow or another, we both ended up having it open at the same time, and now there's 2 copies of it, and we don't really know which one's the right one. Google Presentations fixes all of that. I recommend if you're going to be collaborating on a presentation, even if you don't plan to use Google Presentations, you start with Google Presentations, and then when you're done, you can say File, Download As, and download it as a PowerPoint file. Because if you look at what this does, if I were to invite any of you to collaborate on this, I would see your picture next to whatever slide you're on. I would see the changes you make instantly, just like I saw Jackie making some changes earlier. And then you can also add comments. So somebody could just go in and comment on a slide or on an image and say, hey, don't really like the looks of this. Should we change this or change that? And you can have a conversation going back and forth. So lots of things that you can do with presentations. What I also like is, I have this presentation, Intro to Google Apps for Education, open. Now I could share this with anyone just like before. And what I do many times, get the share button up here. What I do many times is just share a view only copy with people whenever I'm doing a presentation. Of course, the server has encountered an error, so that's a good time for Google to stop working. Yeah, okay, here we go. So if I go share with others, currently people at TextHelp with a link can view. If I want to change it to where everyone can view, again, I can just say more. I want anyone with a link to be able to view it and hit save. Now here's the problem is you see this link? It's super long, so good luck memorizing that link. Now I could copy the link and I could open my email and send it to the people that I wanted, and that's okay as well. But if I wanted to just include it somewhere for people to see, I use the Google URL shortener. So if you're not familiar with Google URL shortener, there are other URL shorteners as well. You can go to goo.gl, as I've done here. You see I'm signed in, j.carroll@TextHelp. I can paste that super long URL here and hit shorten, and then it creates this short URL, which is always goo.gl, and then you see slash, it is case sensitive, so FEVTDA. And you can copy that and paste it somewhere. So for those of you watching, if I just do command copy, I'm on a Mac here, and I hit done, I can just paste the thing here. Right, so there it is. I'll make it a little bigger. So if any of you all can see that and type it in, go to that link, you will actually see yourself, or if you're anonymous, such as Anonymous Iguana here, you'll see that that you can get into that. It looks like a couple more people are popping up as well. So kind of neat to see that if you do that, now you have access to the presentation. Hopefully I turned it on view only, otherwise you guys will probably be deleting stuff just to mess with me. So so that's how that's kind of how you can take advantage of sharing these things with others. It works real well in classroom settings as well. Imagine you're doing a presentation in front of a class. You've got all your slides and bullet points. Students are trying to take notes, but then you can just share the presentation with them so they could have access on any device. Doesn't matter if they're on an iPad or a Chromebook or a Mac or a PC or whatever they may be on.